All right, welcome back or welcome to the Hit Factor. I'm your current host, Jay, and I am joined by a special guest, someone who has won lots of things, tons of area championships, lots of state level twos. You won single stack nationals in 2017,
Right.
2020 production nationals,
Yep.
and you're gonna have to say if I'm missing any here, but then this year, Carry Optics Nationals.
Yeah, with an asterisk.
Yeah, you beat everybody in the U.S.
Yeah. It's
Anyway,
just weird. It's weird on that one because it's like fourth place but winning, but whatever. We'll
yeah,
move on.
it is a weird it is a weird one. I understand the weirdness. But anyway, we're joined by Jacob Hetherington, and yeah, as we were just discussing, I am like people know who you are, and I want to ask you questions that I haven't heard you talk about, and so we're just going to get right into it. So kind of the first one is, and they're all kind of tied together, but the first one is like, what is the difference on and I'll give more context if you need it, but the difference in maybe preparation on shooting a stage between like your average performance and then like a massive stage win, because you'll have these at matches. I think everyone does in their own skill bracket, like have really good stages and stuff, but I want to hear like what that difference is for you. And obviously, anyway, I'm gonna stop talking, but what's the difference between like average stage performance and huge stage win?
I try to prepare the same way every single time, whether it's like happens to end up being a terrible stage or like my best stage. I think the biggest thing that changes is definitely just going to be like the confidence level, because once you're at the high level, we all practice a bunch, we all have the muscle memory and everything, and it's just how well we can perform on demand. So to me, like it's almost all mental, and it's just managing like emotions, pressure, and kind of like stress, um, to give you that best performance. Because sometimes you get done with a stage and you're like, wow, that was kind of slow, and then it turns out like you were 2 seconds faster than everyone or something like that. And so it's trying to get your mind set up to be at the peak of focus. And sometimes it works out and you have a crazy stage win, and sometimes you know you lack confidence somewhere or have some doubts, or there's just your brain does not perform at the top level, and then you have an average or less than average stage.
So if like I'm like, what shows up then in a stage if you're lacking confidence in, like, or maybe you don't know before you start the stage if you're lacking confidence or whatever, but maybe like how does that manifest itself during a stage?
um During the stage, or it usually will start like at the make ready, and like I'll notice just a lack of confidence or an increased pressure amount, or uh like an unknown feeling going towards the stage of how I'm gonna do. That's usually a giveaway to when I need to start trying to employ like kind of like brain tricks, where or like I just say statements in my head. So like if I start getting that lack of confidence feeling or something, I'll one of my go-tos is like, well, you shoot often, you have the skills to back this up. There's no reason that these paper targets on this stage are specifically any different than the hundreds of stages you've shot prior to this, and like try and calm my head down and raise the confidence. Um,
and then like the opposite of that. So I'm going to bring up the example of like, I mean, a lot of people watch scores for area matches and things like that, and nationals of course, but your last stage at area 2, which you shot not too long ago, that was like just in comparison, like 2 or 3 seconds faster than anybody else in the division, and then like it was the fastest time in the match too overall.
Yeah, it
Like,
was.
big stage win.
Yeah.
What's like, you walk up to that stage, I mean, are you thinking like, because I've felt this before where I'll get up to the last stage and I'm like, well, I mean, things have been going okay, but like this, I'm about to be done like for the match, so like that's cool, and like so a lot of stuff falls away from me then, and then then I can shoot really well, or maybe my confidence goes up. But like, I'm curious for you in that specific circumstance, what was going on there, and if the
Yeah.
preparation was any different.
So for area 2, I was shooting throughout the whole match, the first 2 days especially. I was shooting the fastest and most risky plans possible.
Okay.
Leading up to the match, I was more focused on not really the match. It's the last match of the year. It's an area match, and I didn't train as much as I usually do for area match just because of like the situations that came up. Um, and so like I know you always want to go to an area match and win, but like I wasn't too concerned. Also, there wasn't any like super well-known USPSA professionals in limited optics
Yeah.
in the division, and so there wasn't a lot of pressure on. I didn't put like a high performance pressure on me, like as if I was going to nationals. So um, the whole match, I was shooting as fast as literally I could. I dropped a lot of penalties. Most were on 7-yard and closer in partial targets,
Yep.
just going fast. And I think I had like 21 pickups on the first day. So it's like almost a whole stage in pickups just in day 1. So at the start of the last day, which was only 4 stages because we had chrono, and I think it was a smaller day, I was like 12 or 14 points behind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I usually shoot better with pressure, which helps. But on that last stage specifically, I had a big lead because I had won the first 3 stages of the day, and I think I had to shoot like it was a 160 point stage. I think I had to shoot like 130 points on it to tie. So like extreme confidence going into that, and then the stage was built on boat deck.
Yep.
So it's perfectly smooth with really good traction. Instead of running like soft rubber cleats, I switched to like more like a trail running shoe, just to, how cleats on wood don't work very well sometimes.
Yep.
So I switched my shoes. I was feeling super confident, and there wasn't a lot of shooting on the move on this stage, which I usually prefer for my stage wins. But there was a lot of wide transitions, and the entry and exits were set up for shooting super early. There were a lot of very close targets as you entered most of the positions, and that's, in my opinion, one of my strengths where I know I gain time on people is like literally breaking the shot as soon as that wall clears. So I just had a good feeling. There was a lot of strengths. I had a good lead, and I had shot, at stage 1, the rest of the stages, and um, I prepared the same way as all the other stages the whole
Okay.
match, but it just came together on that one.
Okay. So when kind of earlier you said, yeah, you try to prepare the same way every time for every stage.
Yes.
Are there times, I guess it may depend on the stage and things like that, but are there times where you will put more effort in and then be rewarded for that effort in preparation? Or
Um, I would say yes. The more preparation, usually the better, but it kind of comes at a point where I have had where like if I go over the stage in my head too many times, then I'll for some reason I'll start building like a self doubt, and I've seen it with newer shooters too. Like
Mhm.
when they load and make ready, and then they go through the stage, and then in their head, and it's like they go through it again, and I feel like they just kind of like build doubts up there with those super long make ready. Um, I
Yep.
feel like my make ready, when I walk up to the stage, I should have all my visualization done. I load my gun, or check the dot, load the gun, and then I go through the stage in like a faster detail. And I should at that point go through the whole stage with no slows or hiccups or like what's next. It should just like no change of gears, just straight through the visualization with no issues. That's that's a good tell that I'm ready. On
Yep.
the stages that I maybe prepare more for, it's probably just a stage that has something a little trickier or not. I wouldn't say that it makes the stage any better, because there's stages that like you're up first, you get minimal time, and you shoot really well on. So, but
Yeah.
I have I have caught myself with a really bad stage, and then I've looked back to like, oh, well, I missed, this step and this step in my walkthrough, and that's probably why this happened. So,
Right. So I mean, like, if you're to put it in the way of like, you show up to a stage, and if you spend a lot of time preparing, but maybe the time is not spent well, or like, because I've experienced before where I'll show up to stage and I know I'm first up, so I'm going to use my time very in a very focused way. I'm going to put a lot of effort in probably in a really short amount of time,
yeah.
and that generally goes pretty well for me. If there's nothing like crazy with the mover sequences that you kind of benefit from seeing a lot or something like that. But so like you're talking quality maybe over just like kind of mindless reps that kind of just make you nervous.
Yes, I would definitely say that. And every time I visualize, I tend to have a specific focus. So, like, I'll do a visualization of the stage, and I'm just focused mostly on footwork, and
Okay.
then do a visualization where I'm mostly focused on all the spots on like the walls or barrels or something where I need to have my eyes looking, so that as soon as I break that plane, the gun's pointed at the spot, and that's where the A zone appears. Or a lot of the times I really need a walkthrough where I just look specifically at the spot on each target,
Yeah.
because if I walk through a stage a bunch of times and I'm just looking at the entire target, a lot of the times when I go to shoot, I shoot at the entire target, and then I'm like, well, I had about, you know, 28 points down on this stage, whoopee, or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, so like I guess when you're walking a stage for the first time, are you then looking for like what are you looking for in those walkthroughs? Like if you only have, 2 or 3 walkthroughs on a stage,
yeah.
maybe you haven't seen it the day before. What kind of information like are you gathering then to then use in your preparation with visualization after that?
So if I don't have a lot of walkthrough time, first one's obviously find all the targets. Usually within that first walkthrough, you find all the targets. You can pretty much have a baseline efficiency plan, and then I try and look at each position to see where I can shave off time and if I could shoot anything on the move, because uh, I
Okay.
could have a slightly different stage plan, but if I shoot 5 more targets on the move, even if the stage plan is a little longer, I'm probably going to end up with a faster time just because of the shooting and moving. Um, so that's like 2, and then 3, I'm gonna look at shot difficulty and think about how long those shots are going to take me versus like if I ran up closer or something like that, or shot in a different way.
Yeah.
Um, that's basically the top 3. Once you get those out of the way, then you can look at more of the finite details of like, on every single wall, what am I looking at to, when I clear this wall, be right in the middle of the A zone, or,
And
you know, smaller
and that
stuff like if I shoot this low down target, am I going to kick up a massive dust pile and not be able to see? Stuff like that.
okay, and that's the kind of stuff that you don't need to be on the stage to necessarily pick up on because you're like, I know there's a low target there. It's
Yeah.
dust. So then that would be like maybe that position, so you're like, oh, I'll come in on this other target and then I'll shoot that one last or whatever. Okay, I'm gonna shift a little bit here to like if you're going to a match, which you go to every match and you're like, I'm going here to win. uh, and you find yourself, in a position where you're not quite there. Your points, you're back,
Yeah.
and this would be a really good stage for me to have a stage win on. Or like, yeah, I don't know if you even think about it that way. So this is going to be in a couple parts, but first off, do you look at scores? Are you keeping track in that, or are you keeping track based off of like what's that look like for you?
Okay, so throughout a match, I'm looking at scores very often. I like to know exactly where I'm at, because then I can change plans like we're about to get into on different stages.
Yeah.
Whether that's, shooting a little bit less risky or a little more risky, depending on where I'm at, and how much match is left. If there's quite a bit of match left, even if the stage seems relatively basic, I might try and push or pull more points because I get greedy a lot of the times, and winning by more is more fun. And so I also love just striving to get better and better. So um, that would be the part one of that question. Yeah, I'm always looking at scores constantly.
Okay, so then let's say, you arrive, you're getting late into the match, and there's like 3 stages left,
Yeah.
and maybe you're feeling pressure, maybe not at this point. I guess it would depend on the specific circumstance, but you're like, I could win if this happens, and so like, then you need to produce like or you need to attempt to produce a top end kind of performance.
Yeah.
And in that I mean, like, are you like, if you're feeling pressure, which probably under those circumstances, I think anyone would, and then how are you using that? And then especially, I guess, especially under pressure, where again, you're at the end of the match, you need to do something, because if you don't do anything, then you could easily end up not winning, and you have to attempt to win.
Yes. So on those like last ditch, last like kind of underdog, let's send it. Um, it sounds kind of rough, but like to me, I don't care if I'm second or sixth.
Yeah.
Like to me, it's kind of the same. So I'm gonna look at the stage, um,
Can
like
you give
results. Oh, go ahead.
No, do you have an example that you're thinking of, like a match that you're thinking of where this has happened before?
Um, Not specific. No.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I wish. But like I look at the stage. If people have relatively good have shot before me, I'll look at like their stage results and see like, okay, well, all the dudes that are winning, they're not really the fastest, but they have really good points. Or like, a lot of the times, like Area 2, there's a jungle run,
Mhm.
and it was like dudes who shot 20 points down but were a second and a half faster, are way better off than the dude who shot a second half slower with like, you know, 4 Charlies. So I'm like, all right, well, this is a speed stage, so let's go.
Okay.
And so I kind of use that to look, and just knowing the hit factor helps too. Um, and so for that last ditch thing, I'm just going to try and find the fastest, riskiest plan. Like
Yeah.
partials on the move at 25, poppers on the move, everything on the move if I can. Fastest activating sequences with the most stuff involved. Like you got to pinch every penny out of every position, every spot, and you have to do it, and the pressure's high, and it's either going to go that way for you, or it's hero or zero basically. Like, I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. If you're behind and you need to make moves, there's only 3 stages left. You got 3 opportunities, and you can't expect the dude in the lead to make a mistake because he's got the lead. He doesn't have to do anything super challenging. If he's got a good lead, he can just shoot the basic, relatively good plan, a little bit cautious. And even if you pull 5 points, okay, he still have like if he has a lead, he's got a lead. So
Right. Um, okay, so that answers a few of the different questions. I okay, so another, I guess there's definitely more in there that this is why you need more people interviewing, so then someone can be thinking more well. But I guess I'm thinking of like that. So that in that circumstance, there's a lot of pressure on you, and then how, like, you're feeling that at the same time that you're basically finding out what the most efficient plan that you can do, like, or most aggressive.
yes.
Um, what what are you doing about that pressure, if anything?
So if I'm feeling the pressure, uh, a lot of the times if I notice, I'll start taking deeper breaths. Um, like the first time I started doing deep breaths, I was like walking around on the stage because I had like a sports psychologist kind of tell me like, dude, you need to take deep breaths, and I was like, still feel the pressure. Like it didn't really do.
Yeah,
Like I kind of joked about it, but then I started taking it seriously, and I am convinced like if you take deep breaths for 2 minutes before you shoot, you will be calmer. There's uh, even if you feel like an idiot, like walking around taking deep breaths, like you will be calmer. It actually helps. That's going to drive the pressure down. Um,
yeah, okay. And
Sometimes
that,
you can distract yourself with like because everything to manage the pressure, you can use distractions to kind of redirect your attention. So if you can figure out what distracts you, you can use kind of like those thoughts to help distract you. Some people like listen to music. I just internally think of things,
yeah.
uh, and uh, and
Are
just kind of distract.
are you paying attention to? I mean, I'm not talking about this specific scenario necessarily anymore, but like during a match, are you paying attention to other people and how they're acting and how they're behaving in certain circumstances? And if you are does that influence anything? Like if the person in the lead or whatever, if they're not necessarily their score, but like the way they come off a stage after they're done shooting, or like does that influence what you do on
Uh,
the other stage?
there are there are a lot of like on the super squad. There's a lot of watching other people, seeing how they react.
Yeah,
Uh, if a dude's in the lead and you see him start to crack, like like he's cracking, he just shot a bad stage. You have two options. One, you can take the points he just gave you and shoot the same stage plan, and just collect those points. Or you can push, you know, and just absolutely turn the tide. You get
yeah,
a big stage win on a stage he or she, I guess, kind of faltered on. And to me, I like to kind of push because if I mess up and I shoot a bad stage, I'll be even with him. He
right.
shot a bad stage, I shoot a bad stage. If it goes okay, my risky hard plan, then I'll just collect the points if I shot kind of steady. But if I connect on that really hard stage that he just or she just like faltered on, they know the tide just swung 40, 50 points.
Yeah,
Like if you can shoot a stage plan and alter the confidence of someone else, it's going to be to your advantage. And um, it is an individual sport, but we're on a squad, and you can see,
yeah.
uh, if homeboy gets done with a bad stage and chucks a live round down range and almost hits someone and then storms off, like you like you got that stage. That stage is yours. Like
I'm. I mean, you can almost, without looking at the actual score, kind of tell where,
yeah,
without just the way that people come off of stages, just by, maybe you hear a time here and there, but you don't even have to really be that specific about it. You can just kind of tell by people's behavior.
Yeah.
And that's all. It's so interesting. Yeah. Okay. So I like that. Yeah. You have choices in that circumstance, and what a position to be in too. In that example, to be like, all right, and so I guess that brings up the question of like, does that decision change? Like, I mean, let's say it's in the middle of the match, earlier maybe, and maybe the person who's leading a little bit early on, they don't have a good stage, and you come up to that stage. What effect does the stage itself and how it plays to your strengths, or maybe not, have an effect on that decision then?
It has a big decision because if it's a stage where like it plays to my strengths, the competition messed up, it's in the middle of the match. Depending on where I'm at, say we're dead even tied, like it plays to your strengths. Like that's your opportunity. Um,
Right.
I like taking risks. I think a lot of people who follow me know that I like to take the risks. If there's a risk to take, I'm probably gonna do it. Um,
Yeah.
it's more exciting to me than just shooting safe the whole match. And
Yeah.
yeah, but yes, that does play a thing. If the stage is super hard and like especially on the super squad, if multiple people are struggling at it and you're not like, man, I just practiced all that like that week and you don't have like the utmost confidence, like might as well just play it safe, take your guaranteed points or whatever. But I think it's also important to add it can go the other way, like if you're not shooting first or before them, because um it can go the other way. Like if I throw down an awesome stage win, that can that can shake confidence in everyone as well. So
Oh, yeah.
it can go both ways.
So
And
I
okay.
want to no, I want to bring up a specific stage. When you said that, it reminded me of a stage, which was, I don't know if you remember, it was early on day two at Carry Optics Nationals. It was stage 10. It was the one that like people were struggling on it. There were like those far partials. Um,
Yeah, there was like a swinger. There was like a line of pop on the left side.
left side line of poppers. I think you started over there. Um, that was another one of these stages where, you know, in that circumstance, I mean, you won that stage by, I mean, it was kind of tight at the top, but not to people that mattered. Like
Hmm.
you separated yourself from people that were, you know, were going to be there in the mix at the end, and you
Yeah.
separated on that stage specifically. Was this one of the ones like is this one of those scenarios where you're like you saw some people struggling and you're like, well, hey, I mean, I might as well send it on the stage, or what was that kind of like?
So that stage, it seemed like we obviously walked it before the match. People
Yeah.
were like, "Oh, I went this way, I went this way," and then it was just like that stage was such a go this way or this way, and I swear people were just so concerned about like which way they were going, and like when it comes down to it, like whether you start on the right or the left, you know, it's the same amount of steps, right? So uh, that stage, I did notice a lot of people were struggling on. I didn't try and like full send on that one. I wouldn't say I took the starting on the left because I felt like I could be more aggressive through that middle and really get more targets moving. That's why I chose starting on the left. Um, and I knew my time was going to be good for that. And then I knew the timing of the swinger was going to be right there. Unfortunately, I don't think I had like one or two pickups on that stage, which is good because of those long mini poppers and stuff. It was just one of those stages where, everywhere I looked, the dot came right to it and it just kind of like flowed. Um, so I wouldn't say I was even like pushing too hard, except for in that middle position. I was really trying to move extra quick and I focused on pushing there in the stage and just kind of coasting for the rest because of high risk.
Right. And so is that something, because I mean, I found benefit in it to like, and you talked about a little bit about going through a stage in the prep and picking different things to put your attention on in
Yeah.
visualization. in that circumstance where there's some aiming that you actually have to do, and then there's some elements of the stage also where there's less of that, and it's maybe more about aggression. Like, are you separating that stuff out specifically, and then making sure that you're not carrying that aggression into the stuff you have to aim at, and the same reverse where you're carrying, like, aiming into something where you need to be focusing on something else? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think like I'll visualize where I need to shoot on the targets and what it's going to feel like. And I'll just go through the whole stage, even on the aggressive targets. Um, I'm going to still do like my hard focus in where I want to shoot the targets while I visualize. Um, and that
Yep.
will stay all the same. And then I think it's more of like while I'm visualizing, I'll get a feeling, not necessarily like visualizing going faster, but like just the feeling of like being aggressive versus like a more calm, cautious shooting. While I do the visualizations, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally does. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so uh we'll shift away, but if there's anything that comes up, jump back in with it. But I want to talk about your training a little bit, and I want to go back to, like, when you were a teenager, uh
Yeah.
and maybe you were, like, I don't know, you were learning this stuff. What was your training like when you were, like, maybe right before you made GM, or right after, or when you started to, I guess I'm changing my question now, but when you started to, or when you decided that you want to start winning matches, like big matches, what was your training like when that first happened, when that first decision was made?
Okay. So I had focused on classes till master class. I was very focused on the class. Um, Once I started trying to win majors, that's like I went from master class through grandmaster like so fast, and it was just a mentality thing that I changed. I wouldn't necessarily say like my master class training was any different than like trying to win the match training. When I was like basically before I got the job I have now, um, I would say every single day or every other day, I did probably 30 minutes of dry fire, and it would just be like the stuff you can really, I think, hit on dry fire, like draws, reloads.
Yep.
Trigger manipulation is hard to do on dry fire. You can pull the trigger without moving it, but you don't have that slide to go back to be able to reset and prep the trigger. Um, I'm a huge fan of like as soon as the gun goes off, get back on and prep as fast as possible. So like you can't really do that on dry fire. And then some of the moving like entries and exits you can kind of work with dry fire, but majority of it was just like getting it so where I could move the gun and have it line up perfectly right where I'm looking. And it was a lot of that dry fire, probably uh, once a week or once every 2 weeks. It would be 300 round live fire sessions or a local match. And the local match, I've never really tried to win a local match ever. Every time I go to a local match, I've focused on specific things while training. Like, I've shot local match almost strong hit only the whole time or headshots only. Like, I'm focused on a specific thing at the local matches. Um,
Do you have you shot a local match this year?
no. No, but now I shoot a lot more live
No,
fire.
yeah.
So instead of dry firing, now I'm doing live fire. The only time I will ever dry fire is if I'm specifically having a draw, reload, or something in live fire practice. Sometimes it's really easy to just focus on it on dry fire for 15 minutes, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
And in my live fire training, most of the time we take things we're bad at or stuff we want to focus at, set that up, along with a bunch of other targets and stuff. Basically, we'll have one bay with a bunch of walls in the middle and random targets just lining the whole perimeter of the bay.
Yeah.
And we will choose, 3 or 4 positions, and we'll choose 1 to 4 or however many targets in each position. And we'll give ourselves like 1 or 2 walkthroughs. You get like 1 or 2 visualizations, and then you go. And that really helps build your mental speed, basically, on how fast you can memorize and get in like a solid stage plan is in. And then once you find yourself making errors um, on a specific section, then we'll kind of separate that out, focus on it on like a drill or something, or just
Okay.
that section of the stage, and iron that out. Because when you don't get the long preparation, and say I have issues hitting steel or paper, whatever, my entries seem slow or inaccurate, that's probably because with the lack of preparation, you have to run subconscious a lot, and it exposes where you're lacking in like the muscle memory, subconscious shooting skills. So you focus that and iron that out. And then if you practice it a bunch, now next time you have low preparation and you need to enter uh, a position or something like that, you're more practice, and it just goes smoother even with the smaller preparation. I
Yeah.
found like if you're training and you walk through the stage for 5 minutes and then you shoot it, it usually goes well because you had a lot of preparation, and
Yep.
you, you could overcome some of the subconscious, training flaws you have with, conscious visualization.
I like that. So it's more of, it's not like I'm training, let me see what I can get, like let me see if I can get my top performance right now. It's more like let me check and see what's happening so then I can find something to improve on. Is
Yes,
it okay?
that would be good. And like obviously, if you just get back from a match and you had 21 missed shots, pickups on the first day, maybe that's something you focus on till you get that ironed out. But I like to say my excuse is I was trying to go fast, and I was. But if I can go fast and hit the targets next time, I'll be, you know, 21 less pickup shots faster.
Yeah. Yeah. Um so okay, I am one of the people who like I think it's a I don't know where it came up or where how it started, and I am in the process and have been in the process over the past year and a half of getting shifting into being like more okay at a match, making mistakes, and going fast and taking like the riskiest plan and being like, what's the most what's like the craziest activator sequence that's like doable that I can do in this circumstance, or like can I shoot these targets on the move and all that. And so were you always that way? Like when you started, were you always like, well, watching people and trying to go crazy fast, or like did you have to specifically make yourself do that?
I think I've always had the need for speed, even
Yeah.
when I was young. In like single stack nationals was my favorite match because it was standalone. All of the big pros came there. A lot of people showed up because there was like intense custom like guns given away every year. I mean, it was like probably one of the most competitive nationals that I shot early on, and um, even then, like I was just like everyone on the first stage, kind of shoots a little calm. It's the first stage, like you're cold, or whatever, and I would just throw down like either stage win or not. Like if you
Yeah.
look single stack nationals from like 2013 to like 2015 ish, even 2016,
Yeah.
like, and maybe even 2017, I'm either really good or bad on like stage one. I'm going for it, and I've always just like if I can win a stage with the fastest time, it to me makes like it warms my heart more than like, oh, I shot more A's.
Yeah. Okay. And so will that be like, I mean, so we get into, you know, now where will you change that? I mean, it sounds like you'll still find yourself taking a riskier plan or trying things or being more aggressive than a lot of other people on like the super squad.
Yeah.
Will you try to rein that in under certain circumstances, or or are you not trying to fight that so much?
Well, this year after Optics Nationals and Erica fell won by or he beat me by a substantial amount. I beat him by I think over 10 seconds, but like obviously his points and everything, it's like that's the way. If you listen to Eric talk, like he shoots the score and it's like what he needs to do to win if
Yeah.
he and it's so much smarter if you look at like the risk versus reward and consistency. Like he's the most consistent match winner ever, and speed has always saved me. So like after Optics Nationals, when I started shooting limited optics, I was like, I'm going to try to shoot like as accurate as he does. But even like toning it down, I would do great for say 8 stages, but that 9th stage, like maybe I drop a penalty or something. And then it's like, well, if I was going faster on these stages, it wouldn't hurt as much. And I just
Yeah.
got that. I just, I have that need for speed, and I've tried multiple times to just, plink A's and get the alphas. Um, and I think that's better, but it hasn't worked for me yet. So Area 2 is an exception. I strayed far away from that and just went like, let's go fast. Um, But I think again, the next match is coming up. I'm gonna try and be, I guess, a more controlled, where like I have less penalties. But like you said, I'm still shooting the most risky activator sequence. If I think I can do it, I'm gonna do it. I can't say no. So
That's awesome. I mean, like, I think it's yeah, I don't know. I mean, Brantley is in a similar. I kind of think of him as doing a similar thing to what you've been doing for a long time.
oh yeah,
And like this, like the style, it's a different style, and that's I think that's just what it is, and it's optimized in either way. And if you're going, I mean, well, I'll ask you if you found value going and shooting matches, whether they're locals or not, um, going back and forth between like super aggressive and then figuring out how to hit things. Like, have you found value where overall skill builds from that?
yes, I would say
Okay.
yeah. Um, I haven't been super successful at the whole aiming thing yet, but I definitely feel like it's helped me from like earlier me to trying to shoot A's to now. I feel like I'm better at controlling the crazy for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do think switching like that is good, and I love Brantley's shooting style. It's just like mine. It's like raw time jam, baby.
Well, I mean, the you can. I'm not gonna be able to explain this perfectly, but you'll know exactly what I mean. But there's a time that you have to hit for the overall in the match to be eligible to win. And if you are not hitting that time, you doesn't matter how many points you shoot, you cannot win.
Yeah.
And and so to a certain degree, and it depends on like the people, or maybe maybe it doesn't, but it's like the time is mandatory to a certain extent. And I think that's a barrier for a lot of people where they'll cap themselves out in speed because they have to see certain things on a target, or they think they have to see a certain thing on a
Yeah.
target to hit it. Yeah. So I asked you. We'll wrap this up here in a second, but I asked you at the end of. I don't think I'd met you before at this point, but it was U.S. IPSC Nationals in 23. So it was in Florida. It was in the fall.
Yeah.
and you won that match by quite a bit. And I asked you something like, Jacob, how are you so fast? And you said something which I thought was was I don't know. I thought it was valuable in a certain way, but I think it depends on how people take it. You said shoot while running. You were just like, I shoot while running. And I'm wondering if you remember that. And I'm also wondering if that means what that means to you.
Um, yeah, so probably not the best response.
Well, no, I mean,
Yeah. I probably was thinking of like, because we're in Florida, honestly, as soon as I got done with that match, the earlier I got done with it, the earlier I could go shark fishing. So I apologize if I wasn't all there, but
oh,
um shoot while running is just like merge every position you can, always keep your feet moving, and even if you shoot slow, like I do not shoot fast splits. You can look at the practice core. I am not a fast split dude. I get made fun of on my team I work on all the time for having slow splits, but merge and shoot as much as you can while moving and as early as you can. That is like the easiest way to drop stage times.
yeah, yeah. Um,
The second
I'm
thing I would try and drop is transition times, like time in between targets, and then finally splits at the very end.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I like it. One more thing, and then we'll wrap it up. This is going back to pressure and and I'm wondering if you do anything like outside of actually training, being on the range, outside of dry fire, outside of competing, to put yourself in a position to respond well or like make the correct decision when you're under a lot of pressure. And I guess that kind of just goes back to whatever else we're talking about. But
Yeah. So
what?
I know, like I have like I guess a plan before a match. Like Area 2 was to go fast, Optics, or like a nationals event. Like I want to take like points where I can, and you know, be very consistent and confident, and not get too greedy is now a new one for me. I think that's a big one for limited optics. I got super greedy on stage 16 and tried to shoot a world record time and ended up with double mics. So not get too greedy, but I start mentally preparing a match and like my mental strategy for that match well before the match. And it's usually right before I go to bed. I do some, sounds weird, but I take 7 deep breaths and then I visualize myself on the range at the event. Um, and then I'll take 7 more deep breaths. I'll visualize myself on the range and what pressures I want to feel. And I'll take 7 more deep breaths. And I do that well before the match. It can go too much. You can get too relaxed too. And I did that once. I think it was IPSC Nationals when it was in Arizona. I could not find pressure. I shoot better under pressure. I was struggling that match. And I even caught myself like before stage, kind of like hyperventilating it in the corner, just like taking short little breaths to try and psych myself up.
Yeah, that was going to be another question.
On what you visualize well before the match. And it really does work. But the first time I tried it, I didn't really believe it. I was like just sitting there taking deep breaths and like visualizing like this kind of dumb, but it actually works for me. So
Yeah. Okay. No, I like it. I guess I said last question, but are you doing that? Like, I mean, when you say well in advance, I mean, if you know a world shoot's coming up and it's like 2 years away, is that one of the chances, or are you not that far out?
no, I would say like 3 months, 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of world shoot, which I guess it's like a year away, are you going to world shoot?
Okay. I qualified for the top thing. I've told the people I'm going. I really want to go. I didn't have my passport at the time the applications came out, so I like was like, oh, when my passport gets in, I'll do the application. And then like I got kind of busy traveling and stuff, and then my passport came in, went to get it, but the lady who hands out, because it's a government like red passport, the lady who hands them out was like on leave for 2 weeks, and I forgot some. Don't really have my passport yet. I'm still waiting on the lady to get back. I submitted an application with like as much as I have, but it was like maybe a day or two after the cutoff, so we'll see. Uh, I am gonna go to World Shoot though. Um, so
Awesome. Yeah. No, I'm imagining that will be okay.
yeah,
Awesome. Um, yeah. All right. Well, I don't have any. I mean, I have a lot more questions, but also it's my bedtime, so
yeah.
um, we'll wrap it up. Hang on for a second at the end so that we can wait for it to upload.
Okay.
And is there anything you want to close out with? Anything you want to add?
Um, Not really. Just hope everyone enjoys USPSA and develops the need for speed because going fast is more fun.
Yes, yes. I have been working on developing it, and it's definitely way more fun. Way
Yeah.
more fun than being like afraid of missing. Like just shooting
Hmm.
scared is. Um. Anyway, I don't have an exit saying like Jeremy or Jeff does, so we're just gonna wrap it up. Stop it right there. Thanks everybody. Catch you in the next one.